All right, I want to make you play GM now, Rick. If you're the Lions, they just lost Aidan Hutchinson to that injury. He was their pass rush for all intents and purposes. Everybody wants Detroit to go trading for a new pass rusher. Max Crosby's been linked to them. Dan Campbell's fielding questions about it every press conference. What would your move be if you're GM of the Lions?
I'm sure Brad Holmes is doing the behind the scenes stuff. Now, if we had a clearinghouse, he can just call the clearinghouse and see what's actually on the block or not on the block. But
That's what I'm saying.
apparently so. But what I would say this is you have to look at Brad Holmes and how he operates. He's very conservative. He will make moves if he thinks it'll definitely help the team. Would it be great to get a Max Crosby? I think it would be the best move they've ever made. I remember back in, I can't remember, when we made the trade for Jared Allen, and I made it with Carl Peterson when he was in Kansas City. Now, that was during the offseason, but what a difference that Jared Allen made for the Minnesota Vikings when we were able to consummate that trade and give him the contract. Brad, they do it their way. They're going to not listen to what's outside. They're not going to listen to the noise. They're going to go about their business. They're excellent evaluators. They'll look through every practice squad, I'm sure. They'll probably make some calls to see if anyone's available at the right price. They're not going to overpay for anyone. But, in fantasy land, could you imagine Max Crosby and Aidan Hutchinson on the same team? Because they're almost two peas in a pod just from the way they play the game with the intensity, the effort, the energy. Max Crosby, what a great homecoming, played at Eastern Michigan. That would be just like a home run. But if you're Tom Telesco and asking for two number one picks, well, that's just an insane idea to give away that kind of draft capital. So I think they'll go through the practice squads. They'll see if anyone's available. I was curious to see if Hassan Reddick was going to be on the trade block because they had a short window, but sounds like he's not going anywhere. So I think that they will continue to look, and if there is something out there that is right for them at the right price, they'll make that move. If not, you have to look at their roster right now. They may not have that elite edge pass rusher, but the defense has played much better. But how do they keep the defense at the level that they're playing? The offense has to stay on the field. The time of possession, the things that the offense is doing right now is, I think, second to none. And what Ben Johnson's doing in his creativity, he seemed to have the answer for sure against the Dallas Cowboys. He had the answer. It's the first time, but he's seen some cracks, I think, in the Minnesota defense. And Brian Flores, who has done a phenomenal job as well, and maybe the top defensive coordinator in the league. That was a great chess match between those two that we watched last week. But they'll take their time. If there's a right move, they'll make it. If not, they'll just go on about their business like they always have.
One of the things I wanted to ask you about, and you touched on some of this, just for the Lions to get here, like I can't remember too many teams through the years who went from where the Lions were from a roster standpoint to as strong as it is right now. And it felt like brick by brick every year it was like, hey, we're going to get better in the trenches. Then we're going to get some playmakers. And they just kept adding and adding to that roster. What are your thoughts on just how the Lions have gotten to this point in about 3 or 4 years to have one of these best rosters in the NFL?
Well, I think it starts with the ownership and Sheila Hemp Ford, who is very patient. And when Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes came together, they had a vision in how they were going to put this franchise together and how they're going to continue to build. We're not going to go out and make, splashy moves by signing this big free agent, that free agent, trying to fix it all in 1 year. They slowly had a plan in place. And if you remember Dan Campbell's first year, they struggled. And even going into a second year, I think they didn't win a game, but all of a sudden down the second half of the year, I believe that was the year that they ended up beating Green Bay and knocking Green Bay out of the playoffs in week 17, that you could start to see that their vision and the plan they had start coming. But what I respect the most about Brad Holmes, it's you can't take a running back in the first round. And what does he do? Take Jahmyr Gibbs, and look what Jahmyr Gibbs is doing for him. Sam Laporta, he's had like 3 catches, and they're all flat routes coming out of Iowa. Well, look what Sam Laporta has done. So they have Brian Branch. Well, he ran a 4.5 something at the combine. How can you draft him? He may be the best safety Nick combination in the league right now at the level he's playing. So they don't listen to the outside noise. You know, it was Penei Sewell versus Jamar Chase. They elected to go and start building that interior offensive line or the offensive line, and look at the dividends it's paying down the road now with everybody they have, and maybe one of the best offensive lines, if not the best in the league. So they do it their way. They build it, like you said, brick by brick. They're going to identify what fits that culture, and grit is definitely one of those characteristics that they're looking for, and it's paid dividends right now.
Thanks for watching all the way to the end of our video.
For more great content, click here to subscribe and here to watch another video. We'll see you again soon.